Hello, this is Sandeep Unnithan, and welcome to Defense Deep Dive. Former Army Chief General Manoj Naravane has said he was handed a hot potato at the line of actual control with China. Now, in his yet unpublished book, 4 Stars of Destiny, the Army Chief says he waited for orders and got none. Why is this such a big deal? Let's dive in. In May 2020, the People's Liberation Army sent in 2 infantry divisions backed by tanks and artillery on the line of actual control with India in Ladakh. This PLA mobilization backstopped a series of skirmishes all along the LAC in Ladakh, initiated by the PLA, of course. Now, this mobilization by the PLA blatantly violated every protocol agreed upon by both India and China for over 2 decades. A physical clash in the Galwan Valley on the 15th of June led to the deaths of 20 Indian soldiers and an undisclosed but significant number of Chinese casualties. Now, in August that year, the Indian Army caught the PLA off guard by occupying the heights on the Kailash range south of Pangong Tso Lake. Several hours after this operation, the PLA sent in 4 tanks and infantry towards the Indian positions. As PLA tanks raced several hundred meters towards the Indian positions, the Indian Army leadership debated their next course of action. Now, General Naravane, who was the Army Chief then, writes in his memoirs that he was handed a hot potato because he called the Defense Minister, the National Security Advisor, the Chief of Defense Staff, and the External Affairs Minister. He had one question: "What are my orders?" he asked. Now, the answer he got from Defense Minister Rajnath Singh was, "Jo uchit samjho, wo karo. Do as you consider appropriate." Now, it's easy to see this as being a case of a politician shrugging away responsibility. But let's not forget that this is a political leadership that implicitly trusted the military leadership that was on the ground and in command to do the right thing. Let's not forget that this political leadership had ordered the largest military mobilization in Ladakh since the 1962 war with China. Over 50,000 soldiers backed by tanks, artillery, and most importantly, the Indian Air Force, fighter jets, transport aircraft, and helicopter gunships. Now, how these assets, all of these military assets, are to be moved to counter or to overwhelm the adversary is something best left to the field commanders. And India's political class rarely interferes with the conduct of military operations. The only time they did, during the 1962 war with China, India paid a heavy price, a defeat in that border war. Now, in 2020, India's military did the right thing. General Naravane says he told the Northern Army Commander, Lieutenant General Y.K. Joshi, to move a troop, that is 4 Indian tanks, right to the forward slopes of the pass and depress their guns so the PLA would be staring down the barrels of our guns. This was done forthwith, he writes. The PLA tanks, which had by then reached a few hundred meters of the top, stopped in their tracks when they saw the Indian tanks. Now, General Naravane writes that their light tanks, the PLA light tanks, would have been no match for our medium tanks. It was a game of bluff and the PLA blinked first, he writes. Now, what the Army Chief left unsaid in his unpublished memoirs was that the Indian Army had deployed T-90 main battle tanks to Ladakh several years before the current standoff with China began. In fact, the Army had worked out specific tactics for the Indian Army's medium tanks, the T-90 tanks, to move to counter the PLA's lighter and faster light tanks. And it was exactly these tactics that came in handy in 2020 as they faced off with the Chinese tanks. It left the PLA aware of the fact that in 2020 they faced an evenly matched adversary who would be no pushover if push came to shove.